What if I told you that one of the most important figures in human history is not just a religious figure, but a psychological map of who you are meant to become? Not metaphorically, not poetically, literally. This is the idea that changed how Carl Jung understood Christianity and how he understood the human mind. We've spent the last few videos talking about darkness, about evil, about the shadow, about the parts of ourselves we don't want to see. But now, we turn to something else, something brighter, something deeper. Let's talk about Jesus Christ, but not in the way you might expect. Not as theology, not as history, as a symbol. Now, pause for a second, because that word symbol can feel uncomfortable. It can sound like we're reducing something sacred, but Jung meant the opposite. To him, a symbol is the highest expression of something we cannot fully explain. It's not less real, it's more. A symbol carries meaning that logic alone cannot hold. So when Jung said Christ is the symbol of the self, he wasn't saying Christ is just an idea. He was saying, this figure contains a truth so deep, it shows up at the core of the human psyche. So what is the self? In Jung's psychology, the self is not your personality. It's not your thoughts. It's not your daily identity. That's the ego. The self is something bigger. It is the total you. The parts you know, and the parts you don't. Your strengths, and your darkness. Your conscious mind, and everything beneath it. It's the version of you that is whole. And here's the strange part. The self doesn't just exist. It pulls. It calls you. You felt this. That sense that you could be more than you are. That your life could go deeper. That something inside you is unfinished. That voice? That tension? That quiet pressure? That's the self. Now look at Christ. Fully human. Fully divine. At the same time, that's not just theology. That's a psychological pattern. Because the self is exactly that. A union of opposites. The human and the divine. The flawed and the complete. The broken and the whole. Christ represents that union. Now look at the story. He doesn't stay in heaven. He descends into pain, into limitation, into suffering. He is tested. He is rejected. He is broken. And then, transformation. This pattern is not random. It mirrors something inside you. Jung called this the process of becoming yourself. He called it individuation. You don't become whole by staying comfortable. You become whole by going down, into the parts of yourself you avoid, into the shadow, into the unknown. And when you come back, you're not the same person. That's the pattern of Christ. And it's the pattern of the psyche. But Jung also noticed something important, something most people miss. The Christ image is incomplete. Over time, the figure of Christ became perfect, pure, untouchable, no darkness, no contradiction, no shadow. And that's a problem, because the self is not perfect. It's whole, and wholeness includes darkness. When a symbol becomes too perfect, it stops representing reality. It becomes an ideal, an image you can never live up to. And when that happens, the missing parts don't disappear. They return. Jung wrote about this in Ion. He argued that the dark side, that was removed from Christ reappears elsewhere, as opposition, as tension, as imbalance, because the psyche always compensates. So what does this mean for you? It means this: there is a version of you that represents your highest potential, not perfect, but complete. Maybe you've seen it in flashes, a moment where you acted with clarity, with courage, with truth. Or maybe it's something you imagine, a person you could become, but haven't yet. That image, that pull, that possibility, that is your symbol of the self. Jung would say, take it seriously, not as fantasy, not as ego, but as direction, because the gap between who you are and who you could be, that gap is your path. That is your work. Christ, as a symbol, doesn't ask you to be perfect. He asks you to become whole. And that is harder, but it's real, because a perfect life is impossible. But a whole life, that's something you can actually build. And maybe that's why this symbol has lasted so long, why it still moves people, why it still speaks, even to those who don't consider themselves religious. Because it points to something true, not about doctrine, not about belief, about you. So here's the question: what is your version of that symbol? What image? What possibility? What version of yourself feels like it's calling you forward? Sit with that, because the answer to that question might be the most important thing you discover. Next time, we take this idea even further. We stop talking about the self, and we start walking the path toward it, not as theory, but as a journey